Hello, I'm Porschia Parker Griffin, and I want to welcome you to the Career 101 podcast, a place for ambitious professionals and seasoned executives who want an edge in their career. We're talking about all of the things you were never taught or told when it comes to career growth, development, and change. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Resumes 103, Important Skills for a Resume with Wynter Love. Wynter Love is our Career Services Manager and Lead Interview Coach. She is a current member of the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches and a previous member of the National Resume Writers Association. In addition, Wynter holds certificates in Human Resources Management, motivational interviewing, mediation and technology, and distance learning. She has 15 years of experience in employment consulting and transition coaching. And Wynter attained a Bachelor of Family and Consumer Science from the University of Georgia and a Master of Education with a concentration in Adult Education and Training from Colorado State University. Hi, Wynter. How are you today?
Hello. I always laugh when you get to my degree. So I'm like, that sounds so long. My goodness.
Long and official. It is helpful for what you do today, Wynter. Yes. Well, as usual, I'm thrilled to have you with us to discuss important skills for a resume. We've had you on the show before, as our regulars know. So for anyone who wants more background about Wynter and her career, please check out episode 2, which is Resumes 101, the basics and what your resume should look like. Wynter and I also discussed resume writing tips during episode 25. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, check them out. Today, we are going to jump right in and talk more about important resume skills. When it comes to resumes, one of the most common questions that we get from executives and professionals is, what should be on my resume? And when clients ask us that, I think that the question they're really asking is, what are the important skills and key accomplishments that should be highlighted on my resume? Wynter, we know that everyone is different, but how do you think someone can figure out the relevant skills that should be on their resume?
Yeah, I think that is where everyone should start, right? Is what am I doing that's relevant to where I want to go and my trajectory for the next couple of years, 5, 10 years, if that's part of your career plan. But I would say first and foremost, take notes of your day-to-day responsibilities. What do you do when you sit down first thing in the morning? What are the systems that you pull up on the computer? All of that is relevant because those are keywords that are typically used in job descriptions. I think it's important to note too, it's like, what do people come to you for? Are you like a subject matter expert in your own regard in some way? A confidant, a mentor, a mediator? Like, what do people come to you for? That's important too.
Yeah. So let's say someone is just like looking at their resume. How would they know, just based on what you said, if they're on track?
If you're on track, then your resume should be able to paint a picture about your roles and responsibilities and how they have progressed over the years without any questions in a way, right? A lot of times clients, let's add more context to that. So what does your resume speak about the actual contextual information about the accomplishment? Just make sure that you're painting a full picture of it. So you're on the right track when you have an idea of, and we talked about STAR answers in the interview podcast that we had earlier, episode we had earlier. So you can use that same type of formula to answer for your resume as well. So that situation, that task, the accomplishment, the action, and then the result.
Great. So why is it important to have skills relevant to the job you are applying for on your resume?
Oh, Applicant tracking systems are all the rage these days, didn't you know?
About those tracking system, Winter, if someone doesn't know what that is.
Oh, applicant tracking system is a platform that most employers will use and will have you upload an application to. A lot of times you'll upload a resume and then you'll fill out a series of questions or make sure that your actual resume populated correctly into an application. Sometimes there are tests that are attached to it. And even most recently, I've been seeing the virtual interviews that you can apply, just do an all in one suite with some platforms. So you want to make sure that your skills are relevant to the job description as the computer reads it, which is the applicant tracking system, and then ranks you whether or not you are worthy, air quote, worthy for an interview and to go to the next process, next step.
Absolutely. If your resume isn't scoring highly in software technology like the applicant tracking systems, then you're just not going to get interviews. And a lot
Hmm.
of times people just don't know why. I generally tell people, Winter, that we are preparing their resume for multiple audiences.
Hmm.
This is sometimes really difficult for our clients in highly technical fields to understand. The resume is written to rank highly in the software technology systems based on those right keywords and skills, like you mentioned. Its goal is also to entice a frontline recruiter, so the human being, to put you in the yes pile after a 5 to 10 second glance of your resume. And it's also used for the ultimate hiring manager of the job to look at and be enticed by. So we've got those just three that I mentioned, different audiences there for most resume submissions. And to think about that, for example, let's say you have a PhD in neuroscience and you're out there applying for scientist roles or other highly specialized and technical roles. Well, you've got to take that scientist cap off because it's important for your resume to be appealing and understandable in the software screening systems and to those reviewers who do not have a PhD.
Yeah, that's so important because it's also the combination of words, it's keywords and it's phrases. So you may have, from your understanding, all of the keywords there, but if they're not in the phrase that is positioned by the company that they are looking for, then it is not as likely to pick up on those keywords that you've added. So yeah, all of the language is a balance. Um, I would definitely agree.
Mm. So, as a professional resume writer, how do you find out the important skills to include on clients' resumes?
It all goes into knowing the right questions to ask because you grow as a writer. You inherently know what clients need, what questions, on how to frame them in the right context. A lot of professionals may not realize how they impact operations, and an informal conversation can honestly just lead to a lot of additional information where the context can be developed. So many experiences that many people don't record on their resumes or on LinkedIn is a part of their journeys too. I learned a lot about publications or media appearances, nominations for awards that can be added to your job search documents. I think even there was one instance there was like 4 or 5 presentations that this client gave, all on the industry that they were interested in applying for. And they was like, oh, I just didn't know it was relevant. I'm like, yes, all of that has impact as well.
And Winter will not toot her own horn, so I will do it here. Winter has also written hundreds of resumes, and the other writers on our team have all written hundreds of resumes as well. I know that Winter and the other writers on our team, a lot of times they've written so many resumes in different industries and for different jobs that they just know some of the important skills to include for clients just based off of doing the actual writing for years. And then something else that our team does, and I don't know about every other professional resume writing team, but our team goes in and does a lot of research. So, again, for example, if someone were to sign up with Fly High Coaching and they want a resume done, we will go and research the job titles that they're interested in, any specific job postings, and look for important skills there too. So it's part experience and just having that knowledge of writing resumes for hundreds of clients. And then also the research part too, in terms of finding out even more of those important skills.
Yeah, and customizing it to your location has so much value. A lot of times I've had clients just will send over a job description with the title that they're looking for, and they're like, something like this, and something like this in Washington, D.C., and something like this in Tampa, Florida are completely different in some instances. Something like this in one business line can be completely different than something like this in another business line. So we just want to make sure that a lot of the job titles, the responsibilities are actually on target for what you're looking for and don't really get lost in the minutia of the searches, right? Because you can type in a project manager, but if you don't specify and add context, it really won't go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, agreed, agreed. In what you were saying there, it made me think of a conversation I had just yesterday with a prospective client who is interested in getting a resume done. And she told me, Winter, that she just got so overwhelmed with trying to write her resume herself, a lot and part of because she didn't know what should be on it, what are those important skills, and all of that. And so we're talking about important skills for your resume today, but I want you to know that if your head is spinning, and if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, it's completely normal. I tell a lot of people that a lot of this is not common knowledge, right? Nerdy resume writers and career coaches, and I'm a self-professed nerd, so it's okay to say that.
Bad me.
Yes, Winter is too. So those are the people where this might seem a little easier for. But I don't want you to beat yourself up if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, this sounds like a lot, or I'm a little lost.
Yeah, I guess what you say when objectively, when I talk about it, does sound like a lot. But I've been writing for 15 years, so it is like a natural conversation. But I do agree. If you find yourself just like you sit down and you look at it and you're just like, no, ask for help. It's okay, especially if it's those academic CVs, those federal resumes where you have like decades of experience. You need to have a conversation with someone. If I'm just being candid, just so reach out, ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. And along those same lines, Winter, we covered the basics of what your resume should look like in episode 2. From your perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen professionals or executives have with finding and incorporating key skills on their resumes?
Yeah, when you talk about being overwhelmed, I think that really struck a chord. A lot of executives and professionals are overwhelmed with the amount of experience that they have, but then the focus of their experience are like on their job duties in a sense. But if you can't see the forest for the trees, then those instances of cost savings and time management, process improvements and quality assurance, that feels foreign to you. That language doesn't feel like it fits in what you are doing. A lot of time it's managing those expectations and really understanding that those transferable skills, excuse me, I'm sorry, that most executives have and the language may not resonate with them. And it requires a lot of reading and researching the job descriptions. The biggest problem is just seeing themselves object.
The Career 101 podcast is brought to you by Fly High Coaching, where we help our clients soar to their full potential. More and more professionals and executives are setting out to achieve their career goals. But without the right support, it can be difficult, if not impossible. Whether you need career coaching, interview coaching, or a professional resume, we're here to help. Check us out on our website, fly-highcoaching.com. I would agree. I would agree. And another challenge I think that's out there is that online, we know there's so much information, right? You can Google anything and you will get opposing views and different opinions on everything. But I think for resumes, there's still a lot of old advice that's just floating around on the internet. And so Sometimes we see clients who are trying to stick to some old, outdated advice that just really isn't relevant anymore.
Mhm.
For example, some people believe in the one-page resume myth,
Mhm.
or for some professionals, they should have a one-page resume, but everyone should not necessarily have a one-page resume.
Mhm. And
Um,
to that same vein, everyone does not need a 5-page federal resume.
right.
I should not be stretching your resume out to 4 or 5 pages. They do not want to read that. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. Another one I see is that's outdated is having that like objective statement at the top.
Mhm.
So there are just a lot of things out there where you can Google it and someone says it's right, but it's outdated and it used to be right 20 years ago. So those can be challenges for people too, because they don't know who to listen to because they're DIYing it from just different information across the internet.
Yeah. And considering the perspectives from that information, a career development or resume writer working at a college, university, or community college is not going to have the same perspective as someone who is writing for the majority of the workforce. And same with some executives. I know a lot of times clients will go to a suite of friends and be like, hey, give me ideas. Well, they may not have the wide lens to give you that range of answers as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Winter. You made me think about one of our past clients, and this is definitely, I think, a common mistake. Well, one, I talk a lot about your career support system and who should be in that. And we've got previous episodes on the podcast about that, that everyone should not be in your career support system, number one. But we had someone who took a resume draft to 10 of her current coworkers at her job. And
Mm.
surprise, there were different opinions from the 10 people she showed her resume to at her job. And these people were, for the most part, her colleagues on her same kind of vertical level. They had the same exact job. And I had to tell her these people had different motives for you. Some of these people might not want you to go and get this fabulous new job at another organization because they're still
Mhm.
working at the organization that you're at. Some people might not see you in this new version of yourself and might discourage you for those reasons. So she had been discouraged from some of the feedback that she got from people who were not professionals when it comes to resume writing. They weren't in HR, they weren't in recruiting, they were actually at her job. And so I had to tell her all of this. And then 3 months later, she got a job, a great job that she loved with the resume as is. Yes, to your point, the perspectives of the people that you're listening to, that's a challenge in terms of knowing who to listen to and who not. And one other thing, too, is recruiters. Sometimes people say, hey, I've got this recruiter friend, or hey, the recruiter at this company told me this. And with recruiters, I want to say that they all have their own opinions based on their industry and their organization. So a recruiter at Google is going to tell you what they are looking for at Google. But if you try to take that advice and apply it to the resumes that you submit everywhere else outside of Google, it might not be as helpful. So
Right.
I think that's another benefit in working with professional resume writers who work for with clients, thousands of clients across industries with this type of varied experience because they know what's going to be most effective across the board. And sure, when you get your recruiter feedback from Google or some other large corporation, you could tweak it and have that one version for them, but not to necessarily use that
Mhm.
across the board.
Didn't overwrite everything just for that one specific role.
Exactly, exactly. I'll get off my soapbox when you're shopping, but you made me think of a few things there with perspectives, and I think it's super important for people to know. So, in addition to keywords that are specific to the job and industry someone is targeting, transferable skills are imperative too. For those who don't know, what are transferable skills?
Oh, transferable skills are those skills that are able to transfer. That was horrible, wasn't it? But really, it's those skills that go with you as you switch roles, as you switch industries. How do you impact the room when you step foot in it? What is attached to you as a person? And those accomplishments are the transferable skills, is how I like to explain it to a client. I don't like to give specific examples when I'm first talking to clients about transferable skills because I don't want to guide them through what that looks like. Because sometimes a transferable skills is collaboration and they're on a committee at every single role that they're in. And they don't realize that they've been doing diversity, equity, and inclusion for 10 years as a part of this committee work. You just let the client tell the story, but those transferable skills are those reoccurring themes that keep on popping up every time you look at your career history.
Yes. I like to say transferable skills are talents and abilities that can be applied to a new role. And I generally tell our clients that when you are thinking about transferable skills, they should be some of your high level proficiencies and competencies. I also agree with not necessarily sharing examples of transferable skills right off the bat with clients so that they are creative and really think uniquely about what their transferable skills are before we start throwing out examples. It's important to do that deep level work first, and then after that, we can think about some examples. Let's say someone's done that winter. They've already thought about what transferable skills are for them, and now they want some examples. What are some examples of transferable skills that could be helpful to include on a resume?
Oh, I would always start with highlighting leadership. So, how are you engaging with people? How are you moving the needle? And people can be clients, it can be patients, it can be staff, it can be board members, it can be vendors. But what is going on with that pipeline? How are you moving teams? How are you moving processes? How are you impacting the organization? Collaboration is huge. So I want to take a look at how are we actually pinpointing your accomplishments in connection to collaboration. I know we talk about committee work. A lot of times, committee work is one of the last things that clients think about, but it's a lot of people talking. That's a lot of strategic planning. That's a lot of um, management and forecasting. So that collaboration piece is huge. Um, I would also say take a step back and look at the jobs that you're interested in. Those themes that we were talking about in those buzzwords that come across. So that you may see a lot of buzzwords right now are data driven decision making. Working in high energy environments are buzzwords. Do you have examples that can fit in line with those themes that you see? In problem solving, you should at least have 5 examples of problem solving.
Agreed. Agreed. Some of the other ones that I liked are time management,
Mhm.
delegation, listening, training, persuasion is a transferable skill. I like to think of the ability to facilitate or give presentations, evaluating things, negotiating things, organization. So we've given you some good examples, I think, of transferable skills that might apply to some of the listeners. We also include what some people call personal or professional skills in our clients' resumes. What are professional skills, Winter?
Professional skills are more of those skills that are closer to your chest, right? Things that or tactical skills, you can say. What is closer aligned to your industry that you personally would use to influence teams to impact operations as we talked about. So we talk about emotional intelligence. You're talking about critical thinking. As you get into the more tactical keywords, sales enablement is a keyword that is really broad, but is really specific at the same time. And in connection, we can say pre-sales engineering. Those are more tactical and professional keywords that would be really specific to what you are able to do that wouldn't be in general and wouldn't be considered like a buzzword, but is really important to your career history and your trajectory as you go on to explain your expertise. Now, as it relates to more of like your I wanted to say here, I guess I should clarify. that the personal and the professional skills are not your hobbies. So just be mindful there. So while it is nice that you may have gone skiing in 2003, it may not be the right time to put it on your resume unless it is a part of the full package. So I just wanted to make sure that I was saying be careful there, not to confuse your personal and your professional skills with your hobbies and more off the clock type of things.
Great point. Great point. I generally say that professional skills are traits that also make up your unique disposition, right? So these are displayed at work and can be beneficial in a professional environment. You started, I think, mentioning some, but what are some other examples of professional skills, Winter?
Oh, as you get more into your day to day, take a look at what it looks like to be a team player. Are you trustworthy? Are they giving you confidential documents to handle? Are you a quick learner? Is someone often calling you to be a team leader or a part of a team or to handle multiple things? So, all of these things are personal skills and professional skills that tie in to your full package and can be explained. I usually use a lot of these skills and traits for the professional summary on LinkedIn because it adds a layer of context that you wouldn't get in the professional summary on your resume.
I love it. I also think a few professional skills that I like to mention to people are honest, patient, unbiased, resourceful, tactful. Let's see, I'm trying to think. You said so many good ones. Dependable,
Mhm.
enthusiastic. These are all professionally things that someone could see as a benefit or an attribute
Mhm.
to
Absolutely.
your.
Detail oriented is a big one
Yes,
too. Mhm.
it is. That's a great one. That's a great one. So, Winter, what is your number one tip for writing or developing content with?
My number one tip is to take your time to review your information. Take your time to review your goals going forward. Make sure that when you're developing content, it speaks to you and you're not inflating your experience. But also make sure that you're not deflating your experience. It's a balance. But I just want to make sure that everyone who is writing their own content or if they're reviewing content, that they're taking the time to actually absorb the information and really see if it really fits on what you want to do and what you have done in the past. Take a look at those keywords and compare and contrast the job descriptions. But yeah, I say take your time is the most one. If you're creating your resume with multiple updates within an hour or two, you're missing something. I promise you. Just take your time.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. That's a great tip. So, that tip was about really developing content. I'm going to ask you our last question and we'll broaden it out to just resumes in general. But how do
Mhm.
you think executives or professionals can get a positive edge with creating their resume?
You get your positive edge with creating your resume by staying flexible, by researching your own industry and understanding how subject matter experts talk about your industry. Like we said, look at your role in different locations because sometimes a different explanation of your exact role in a different company across the country will just provide you with what the marketing trends are, if you will, across the job search. So if you are able to keep a rolling list and being flexible of the keywords, the phrases that you input into your resume, I think that will serve you well.
Agreed. Well, Winter, you have shared a lot of tips with us today, and I'm sure that our listeners can use it to be more confident in their careers with their resumes. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This episode was brought to you by the Bravebird Career Alliance, the go to membership designed for seasoned executives and ambitious professionals with everything you need for career planning, strategy, training, and support. Thank you again for listening to the Career 101 podcast. I hope you have at least one key takeaway that you can use in your own career. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, please rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Until next time, here's to your success.